Okay. Today's class is on pyogenic liver abscess and hydantic cyst. Okay. First, let's start with the pyogenic liver abscess. First, the etiology. Biliary sepsis is the first etiology. It consists of about 35%, and it is the commonest root. And the root comes from actually from the emphyema gallbladder, cholangitis after biliary tract surgery, instrumentation, Stone's disease, Caroli disease, biliary ascariasis, biliary enteric anastomosis. And the next is the portal vein sepsis. It is the second most common cause, and it consists of about 20% of the causes, and it has got it has got its source from the appendicitis, about 2% of the cases, and then diverticulitis, inflammatory bowel disease, pancreatitis, perforation, pelvic inflammatory disease, colorectal carcinoma, tonsillitis in the newborn. Next is the distant infection, usually through the portal vein, usually from the and it comes from the pneumonia, upper UTI, and endocarditis, osteomyelitis, and bacteremia. And next is the superated infections. It is around 5%. It gives its growth about 5% of the cases, and it comes from the amoebic liver abscess and identity. Next is the cryptogenic liver abscess. It consists of about 20% of the cases, and no identified primary infection it can be found in this case. It is known as cryptogenic liver abscess. Next is the trauma becoming common cause, around 4 to 10% of the cases, and sometimes from the direct extension, around 5%. And from the suppurative cholecystitis, direct extension is consists about 5% of the cases, and it usually comes from the suppurative cholecystitis, subphrenic abscess, perforation, and perinephric abscess. Next is the most commonest bacteria which is responsible for it is the E. coli is the most common. Then comes the Klebsiella, then Proteus, Pseudomonas, Clostridia, Enterococci, Streptococci viridans, and polymicrobial infection. Then the pathology, how it occurs. Actually, due to laminar blood flow in the right lobe, it's most of the pyogenic liver abscess occurs in the right lobe, around 75%. It commonly involved. Left lobe around 20%, and caudate lobe around 5% are also often involved. And it is usually solitary, 60%, and occasionally it can be bilobar and multiple. And cavity usually contains pus with virulent organisms. Usually abscess is acute. In cryptogenic type, chronic presentation is known to occur. Ascites and splenomegaly is usually not seen, and it is more common in the diabetic patient. Male to female ratio is 1:1, and it is more common in the old people after 55 years of age. Blood culture commonly show positive for the bacteria. And now the clinical feature. There will be pain in the right hypochondrium around 60% of the cases, and there will be high fever with rigor. It is found in around 90% of the patients, and then there can be weight loss, jaundice, occasionally 20%. Then there can be intercostal tenderness, tender soft liver found in 60% of the patients, and there will be features of toxicity. And constitutional symptoms are also found like malaise, lethargy, and vomiting. Usually, the diagnosis is made from ultrasound abdomen, CT scan, and sensitivity is 90% for the USG and 97% for contrast CT scan. LFT and total count can be done. And next is the ultrasound guided aspiration of pus after controlling the prothrombin time. Chest X-ray shows elevated diaphragm, often with right side pleural effusion, and blood culture is very relevant. And the differential diagnosis for pyogenic liver abscess are amoebic liver abscess, hydantic cyst, and subphrenic abscess. Treatment, we can give systemic antibiotics and cephalosporin and metronidazole, and ultrasound guided aspiration or pictal catheter can be done, and percutaneous drainage is the treatment of choice at present. Drainage tube or catheter are placed in the US or CT guidance into the liver abscess, and pus should be sent for culture and sensitivity, and follow-up USG, LFT assessment of quantity of daily drainage should be done to assess the response. 75% of the pyogenic abscess is drained percutaneously, and percutaneous aspiration without drainage tube is also you can use, but repeated guided aspirations are required. Otherwise, success is similar to the drainage. Occasionally, open drainage is required. Open drainage is indicated in recurrent abscess, failure of percutaneous drainage, large abscess of size more than 5 centimeters, and open drainage is becoming less common at present, but in selected patients, it may be a life-saving essential therapeutic modality. Treating the primary cause is very essential. Complications are usually septicemia, liver failure, and rarely rupture and peritonitis can occur. Next, move on to the hydantic cyst. It is usually caused by the Echinococcus granulosus, the dog type 1, and the parasite. Life cycle is usually, we know already, it is from the infected offal of sheep, then it is eaten by the dog, and then eggs are released, develops in the dog's intestine, the parasite of 1 centimeter long with a head and the 3 segments, last of which contains about 500 ova. Ova expelled from the dog's intestine to the grass and the vegetables. Eggs are ingested by the sheep, cattle, or human beings. They are the intermediate host. And through portal vein, liver, larva form. And hydantic cyst occurs in 70% in the liver. It takes a few years to evolve into a complete hydantic cyst, and most commonly involves segment 7, and it is 27% of the incidence. And commonly right lobe, it is 66%, and both lobes in 16%, and only left lobe is involved in 17% of the cases. Pathology usually considered has got 3 layers. Advantasia is the outer layer, it is cyst, and it is an inseparable fibrous tissue due to the reaction of the liver to the parasite. Next comes the laminated membrane. It is ectocyst and it is formed of the parasite itself and is whitish, elastic, containing hydantic fluid, which can be filled up readily from the advantage. Next is the germinal epithelium. It is the only living part lining the cyst. It is the endocyst, and this layer secretes hydantic fluid, blood corpuscles, and with scolex and heads of the future worm. Then the course of the disease. The parasite may die and the cyst eventually may get calcified. Commonly, cyst enlarges and is palpable per abdomen. It may cause complications like jaundice due to the pressure over the biliary tree, and rupture into the peritoneal cavity causes anaphylactic reaction, which may cause life-threatening shock, require proper management with steroids. Rupture into the biliary channel is commonest, 60%, and rupture into the bowel, urinary cavity can occur. Secondary infection causes suppuration and septicemia, and secondary cysts in the lung, spleen, mesentery, retroperitoneum, and other organs can occur. Hepatic dysfunction is also seen, and disseminated abdominal hydantosis can occur after silent rupture. Now the clinical features. There will be asymptomatic palpable liver with classical thrill, which is known as the hydantic thrill, elicited by the 3-finger test, and jaundice and pain. There will be features of anaphylaxis. There will be discomfort in the right upper quadrant area, dyspepsia, hydantic cachexia in the children, and weight loss and fatigue and the vomiting. Occasionally, splenomegaly, pleural effusion, cholangitis, allergic asthma, fever. Camolid sign. Following interbiliary rupture, gas enters into the cyst, causing the partial collapse of the cyst wall. Now the investigation. First is the ultrasound is the diagnostic, and it can show the double contoured membrane of the cyst due to detachment of the cyst membrane and calcification of the cyst wall. And there will be intraoperative ultrasound is very useful tool. There is a classification which is based on the ultrasound, and it is known as the Hassels-Garvey classification. And type 1 is pure fluid collection. Type 2 is fluid collection with a split wall. Fluid collection with septa, and then the heterogeneous appearance and reflecting thick walls. X-ray often show calcification. CT scan abdomen is more accurate in identifying cyst characteristics, heart wheel-like, multivesicular, rosette-like. Primary serological tests can be done like latex agglutination test, then immunofluorescence antibody test, immunoelectrophoresis, 80 to 95% sensitivity for liver identity. Then secondary laboratory tests such as detection of precipitation line ARC5 in immunoelectrophoresis in most specific and virtually diagnostic of hydrated disease, immunoblotting, polymerase chain reaction, most specific, very useful in extrahepatic hydrated disease and calcified non-fertile liver identity. Then liver function test can be done. It is altered in 20% of the cases. And then the Casimir test, though it is absolute nowadays, it is an intradermal test, 75% sensitive. The complement fixation test, and it is of historical interest. MRI, there is a MRI when there is a jaundice to visualize the biliary tree and its relation to the hydantocysts to find out the cystobiliary communication, biliary hydantocysts in bile duct and hepatic duct. ERCP can also be done to find out the communication. Other methods to find out the cystobiliary communication is intraoperative cholangiogram. ERCP to find out the biliary communication, but not as useful as MRI. MRI is superior to the CT also. Now the WHO classification of liver hydantic cyst are type CL, which is active, unilocular, no cyst wall, is early stage and not fertile. CE1 is active, cyst wall present, hydantic and present, and it is fertile. CE2 is active, multivesicular rosette-like cyst wall, and it is fertile. CE3 is transitional, detaching the emaciated membrane. It is water lily sign and beginning of degeneration. CE4 is inactive, degenerative content, no daughter cyst and not fertile. CE5 is inactive, thick calcified wall and not fertile. Now the treatment, first the drugs. Indication for drug therapy are, there will be 10 days prior to intervention and to continue it for 1 month. Albendazole, we have to continue for 1 month. And to 3 months for mebendazole after the intervention. And if there is inoperable cyst, multiple or multi-organ cyst, there will be recurrent hydrated, surgically unfit patients and cyst in the lungs. And contraindications are large cyst, honeycomb cyst with septa, then infected cyst, calcified cyst, and pregnancy. Drugs used are first is the albendazole, which is a 4-week cycle with 2 weeks drug-free interval. It is a ovicidal or larvicidal or vermicidal, commonly used, and 3 such cycles are used. Dose is 400 mg twice daily or 10 mg per kg per day. And the praziquantel 60 mg per kg along with albendazole for 2 weeks. And mebendazole is 600 mg daily for 4 weeks. Next is the FPR, which is percutaneous aspiration, irrigation, and re-aspiration. And the technique of PR is, it is done under USG or CT guidance. Under local anesthesia, it is done. And using a cholangiography 12-gauge needle for the thickest root or the part of the cyst wall. Cyst is entered through the non-dependent wall, and 50% of the fluid is aspirated, and all multiple on the daughter cysts are aspirated. Then the radioactive dye is injected to see if any communications are present. Then scolicidal agent 15 to 20% hypertonic saline is injected into the cyst, and after 20 minutes, re-aspiration is done. If fluorescent such as alcohol is injected, if cyst is 6 centimeter or more, a drainage catheter can be placed for 24 hours for complete drainage, and later alcohol sclerosant is injected. Now moving on to the surgery. Surgery is still the choice and gold standard therapy for the hydantic disease. The abdomen is open and the peritoneal cavity is packed with moss. And we have to take care that the moss should be black or the colored moss are used to identify white scolix clearly so as to pick up all and prevent any spillage. Fluid from the cyst is aspirated and scolicidal agent, citrinamide, chlorhexidine, alcohol, hypertonic saline, 15 to 20%. 10% povidone iodine or H2O2 are injected into the cyst cavity. Formalin should not be used. Hypertonic saline should be left within the cavity for 15 to 20 minutes to have the effective scolicidal effect. Now, cyst more than now it is important to know whether there is any communication present or not, because there can be sclerosing cholangitis can occur if the substance like formalin is used. And if the cyst more than 10 centimeter is likely to have the cystobiliary communication, and often clinical features of communication may not be present. And preoperatively, there may be a recurrent cholangitis, dilated bile duct, and factors important here are its size, number, type, involvement of hepatic or the bile duct, liver dysfunction, finding of bile stain cyst on table during aspiration is highly suggestive of communication. White mops of the hypertonic saline are kept in the cyst cavity, and the gallbladder is usually squeezed to see for the bile staining of the mop in the cavity, which confirms the communication. Next comes the laparoscopy pericystectomy, is becoming nowadays popular. And contraindication of laparoscopy pericystectomy is if the hiatus cyst is located deeply situated cyst, densely adherent cyst, and if it is an inaccessible cyst, more than 3 cysts, and calcified cyst and cyst in the other organs. Main problem with the laparoscopic pericystectomy is spillage and difficulty in preventing it. Okay. And then the liver resection. Only occasionally it is done, and it is usually done in a segmental liver resection is done, or hemihepatectomy is done. That's all for pyogenic liver resection, high density cyst. Okay. Abdul, hello. Abdul.
Yes, Dada. Yes, Dada.
Take the attendance of all, 95 people who are there, 95,
Yes,
huh?
Yes, Dada.
Okay, you take the attendance and submit it to the office, okay?
Okay, Dada.
Okay, next class is on portal hypertension, okay?
Okay, Dada.
Okay. Thank you, huh?